Okay, so I wanted to go a little bit deeper into detail about how I escaped a beginning of abuser. And I just, thought about it because, I'm not saying this just as women. My experience as a woman, I'm a person first and then I'm a woman second. But I also know and I've, witnessed firsthand, how men get abused verbally, emotionally, and physically. But I wanted to, just talk about it in general as a person of being aware of abuse because a lot of the time people think abuse is just physical. No, abuse is verbal, abuse is emotional. And before people actually touch a person physically, they always mess with them mentally because that's the first way that they break them down. They try to grab on them emotionally, mentally, to control, to tear them down, to keep them in this place where they can have mind control and emotional control over them. So, like I said in the last video, I was talking to the guy and he showed signs that he was a emotional abuser, a verbal abuser, and potentially down the road would be a physical abuser. And because it started with, it always goes with the love bombing. When you start talking to a person, they come off like, oh, they're just good, they're cool. And that's for everybody. Everybody does not just have one side. Everybody has multiple sides to them from the stance. We're human. We have a good side. We have a not so perfect side. So maybe about 30 days into talking to him, he started peeling back the layers. And I started to see the aggression, how he would talk to me, and he would say something what he wanted. And one of the things that I noticed was that he hated for women to speak up. He hated for women to have an opinion. So not only was he an abuser, he was like a chauvinist. He hated that. He wanted women to do what he said, when he said, how he said it. He said, I can't stand a woman that don't want you to tell her nothing. But for him, I don't think it was that a woman not wanting him not to tell her nothing. It was specifically him. He was the problem. Because it's all about delivery. It's all how you speak to people, how you treat people, how you make them feel. And based upon how he acted, he was very abusive. You could tell he really did have a dislike from women, towards women. And that could have came from his childhood. That could have came from something that he dealt with, he saw, and maybe he was wary of women because he had his own emotional issues. And he would try to pawn them off on me like I was supposed to fix them. And I'm like, I can't fix your issues. You already had those before me. It's not my responsibility to fix them. That's your responsibility to deal with them. We all have them and we have to work on ourselves. He would talk really crazy to me and he would just fly off the handle. He would get really, really, really bad about stuff. And I'd be like, dang, I know I didn't say nothing to him like that to just trigger that amount of anger. And just where he just fall off the handle and go, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. And I'm like, whoa, bro, slow your tone because I grew up with a father. My father is loving. He's tender. And he knows how to handle people in general. He knows how to speak to people. So I know maybe everybody has not had that training. Everybody has not been brought up like that. But as a man, when you're dealing in society, you definitely have to know how to stay more calmer than anybody, even more than women, because even sometimes when women acting crazy and they get out of hand, you have to learn how to control your temper because from a verse in one of my favorite movies, Godfather, Vito says, women and children can be careless, but men can't be careless. So men can't just go off in their temper. They have to know how to control their temper. And the fact that he would get mad over simple things or because you didn't do what he wanted you to do or do it the way he felt you should do it and just fly off the handle and he was that aggressive with women, there was a sign of abuse. Also, he would get mad about, he would get very controlling, wanted you to do what he wanted you to wear, wanted you to say what he wanted you to say. It was just always something, and it was always an argument as far as he was the one trying to argue. If you stood up for yourself and spoke up for yourself, he took that as being argumentative. He took that as quote unquote talking back. And it was always trauma. It was always something going on with him. And then he would try to use material things and tactics to try to manipulate you. He was very materialistic. And that don't necessarily mean, an abuse. You're just a materialistic person. That doesn't mean you're an abuser. But he would try to take those things to try to control or manipulate you. Now because I was younger at the time. I was in my 20s. And for a young woman that maybe did not have anything going for herself, that did not have dreams and aspirations, to build onto her life, and she didn't have anything or a job or something like that, that would move her. Those things would move her, like, oh yeah, he got this, he got that, but it didn't move me like that because my dad always taught both me and my brother to have our own, to be independent, to do for yourself. Don't expect for people to take care of you. So you can't move me with material stuff. I'm proud of what it is. It don't have to be the most expensive thing, but I'm proud that I worked for it because I know I showed up and God blessed me with it. So he couldn't move me by that. And he was very materialistic and he would try to control. So that part, I don't call that as abuse. I just think that's just materialistic. But he would try to use tactics of that to try to control and manipulate. He was very forceful in every other way, when you are even with the physical part, if you don't feel comfortable with holding somebody's hand or kissing somebody, it's an energy. And one thing I think as both men and women, we have to make each other feel comfortable and safe. And if I don't feel safe with a man, him, because of it, I sense of energy or his temperament, I'm not going to want to hug him or hold him, or you don't want to kiss him. That it comes off very forceful, and nobody wants to do that with somebody that's always being controlling and manipulative. He was always, he never called me out my name. He never did any of those things, but he definitely would talk down about me. If he had an issue with something that I was always wearing, he would always speak on it. But if I had an issue with how he wore his hair or issue with how he wore his clothes, if I was to say that to him, it would have been a problem. The double standard, it was just always signs of manipulation. But all I'm saying is that there were so many different things that he did in that talking stage. And skipping, he wanted to, skip the talking stage and go to marriage. Skip the talking stage, you go to marriage. Now, mind you, we hadn't talked but 6 weeks, and he was already talking about, let's move in, you having my babies and getting married. That's a red flag to me. Red flag when someone, not even just men and women, someone is rushing and they're trying to, get to that stage even before you built onto a serious relationship. That's a red flag. Because even though you want to be a husband, you may not be ready to be a husband. Even though you want to be married, you may not be ready to be a husband or a wife. Y'all have to work on that. You have to build on that. So he always would say, I'm looking for a wife. And the truth was, that man was not looking for a wife. He was looking for someone he thought he could control. He was looking for someone he could manipulate. He was looking for someone that he thought would be dummy. And he thought I was going to be that dummy. And I wasn't that dummy. And just looking back, the times that he would get so aggressive, especially in his tone, was because I wasn't doing what he wanted me to do. And I say that for men and women. Sometimes in situations, things happen and that hurt us between relationships, and we can get mad, we can get upset. And sometimes, depending on what it is, we could have lost our cool and said some stuff. But it should happen maybe one time, if not at all. It shouldn't be every single encounter with you losing your cool, you talking crazy, you name calling, you're being aggressive or yelling and screaming at somebody. That is not how you handle someone. So that is abuse. And if you continue to do that, that is abuse. So that's just a sign of me. I know it was kind of a little over the place, but control. Somebody trying to abuse you and control you verbally and emotionally. And if you allow someone to get inside of your mind and your heart and your spirit emotionally and verbally, the hitting's going to start. That's when they start putting their hands on you, because before they put their hands on you, they have to be able to tap into you emotionally. Because emotionally, if you was for real, you'd be like, nah, you ain't coming at me. But the video is about to end. That was part 1 of how I